picked up all the way for 6. Hits with the wind, and what a fine stroke that is from Max O'Dowd. A flick of the wrist, no more. We may well be sending off for new balls, because that has gone down into the gardens as Finlay McCreath wonders how he can get it back.
Well, they're not going to miss Scott Edwards too much if Max O'Dowd is able to do that too often. It's the short boundary. He's hitting with the wind assistance, and it has really picked up. You've just got to get it up there, and that wind will take it all the way. And that is the challenge when you've got O'Dowd with the leg side, such a fertile scoring zone. It really does mean that Davidson has just got to think about where he's bowling with that wind. Might be working against him.
A bit of a nothing length, wasn't it? Not really short enough to threaten the shoulder or the helmet of Max O'Dowd. The ball has safely come back, so one piece of good news for Scotland. But the only difficulty from bowling from this end with that really short leg side boundary, 59 metres today, is that's the way the wind's going. So the 59 metres kind of becomes 52, 53. And then if the breeze is blowing so heavily that direction, it's also going to force your deliveries onto the pads and the legs of the right-handed batters. Has to be fuller at his pace, doesn't he? Davidson. He races in again. Not the right line, not the right length, and 4 more. Back-to-back boundaries. And just a little bit errant to start with from Jasper Davidson, given the new ball ahead of Safi and Sharif. Max O'Dowd into his work and already to double figures.
And just undoes some really good work. He had a tidy first over, and then McMullen coming in, who also gave nothing away, but with 2 deliveries, that one was just helped on its way too far down the leg side, sat up, and short work for O'Dowd to get the boundary. All that work of the first 2 overs, the pressure's been released on the Netherlands.
Down the leg side again. Isn't easy with the wind, is it, for the fast bowlers in particular? Kind of spinners quite like the wind because it aids their drift and they'll know how to react with it, but it can be difficult on the run-up for the quicks. And then it affects their line as well, kind of almost battling the wind.
You can see too, just looking out over the players, and there are a few seagulls out there. They love this just as much as the spinners. They're literally just surfing at the moment. Staying still. Riding those gusts.
This is picked up once more, and it's going to go a long, long way. I think a couple of bounces, and in fact, it goes all the way. That's how strong the wind is. I thought it was maybe just going to bounce in front of the rope. Instead, it's the second 6 of the innings, and Davidson is taking some absolute tap from Max O'Dowd.
Aggressive early on. We were talking about the power play, the fact the ball's coming on nicely, and Davidson with a good amount of pace, but at the moment it's just being misdirected. Straying down the leg side a few times, also just bowling a fraction too short. He needs to just tighten things up very quickly.
Fuller driven through the covers. Special stroke. Overpitched, yes, but having put away a few short balls, he now really punishes the erring in length too full. Davidson being taken apart, 21 from 4 legal deliveries.
Yeah, this is a real problem early on. So he tries to compensate. He's been bowling too short, too much down the leg side. So now he overpitches outside off stump. And that is just perfectly in O'Dowd's arc for the drive. And he has raced to 22 off just 9 balls. They need to find a way to bottle him up very quickly.
There might be a few saying, well, hold on, how's 250 par here? This looks like a 300 plus wicket. You could make an argument it'll be the best part of the day to bat by a distance. It'll flatten out a bit with the sunshine that we're receiving. Definitely a big toss to win today. And if you look at the innings for Scotland, it was most difficult early in the day. Just a few ominous signs for the Scots here, despite that flying finish to their first innings.
21 runs off the over so far with this last ball to come.
Good finish, 2 dots to round things out. 3 have been bowled, 26 for none. Almost a bit of warmth in that sun now, Mel, which is a great fill-up to everyone after some very cold days, and those dark clouds have definitely missed us. How do you see this Dutch batting lineup stacking up? Will it be Baracey who'll just slot in at number 4 directly for Scott Edwards? The rest of the order will remain the same?
Makes the most sense, doesn't it? No, Baracey is definitely capable of batting up there, so rather than changing everything around, just keep everyone else in their natural position. Now, can McMullen tighten things up from pavilion end? Because we've had 2 very tight overs, parsimonious overs, and one that just undid all the work of the other 2. But encouraging for McMullen that first over, bearing in mind how loose he was. Oh, a constant threat. Of course, not bowling as quickly as Davidson, so Cross able to stand up to the stumps, which it's one of my favourite things that you see a lot more of in associate cricket, as a keeper standing up. It just makes for fun cricket. You're always on the lookout for something to happen, the threat there.
Just gives himself a bit of room outside the leg stump just to give himself something to work with. Yeah, O'Dowd's going to hold the key. He's acutely aware of the fact he's yet to make a century in ODI cricket. Does have one to his name in the T20 game that came out in Kathmandu. And for a man who's in the peak of his career, all batters will tell you, sort of in between the 28 to 32-year-old mark, that's when you're at your best. In the air, but just wide of the backward point fielder. There is a deep cover out. He'll tidy that up. Amazing to think he's got 15 50s, but yet to make anything more than 90. Definitely a little monkey he'll want to get off his back at the age of 31 now.
I think all batters do. Sometimes I do think in cricket we almost get too caught up with specific milestones. But, yeah.
Chipped back at the bowler and taken. And it won't be a century today as Brandon McMullen takes an excellent catch. That was really, really well judged. Maybe not as spectacular as Kyle Klein's one earlier in the day, but O'Dowd will get to 23. He'll get no more.
Really well done. He's just chipped it straight back to McMullen. Doesn't have the ability to move around as much with Matt Cross prowling behind the stumps, and terrifically taken in the end. Safe pair of hands, McMullen. That is a huge breakthrough. It was a flying start, 23 off 14 for O'Dowd. But now he is the first one back in the pavilion. Huge breakthrough for Scotland early on.
You sensed it was coming, and incredibly similar to some of the dismissals we saw in the first innings. Ball just maybe stopping in the wicket a touch, O'Dowd pressing hard at it, and the contrast in pace between Davidson and McMullen at the far end very much playing in Scotland's favour. Threw the shot a little bit early, put away, and a good catch held by Brandon McMullen.
I think you might be able to hear that wind picking up again as well. I know there's background noises of a few of you have messaged in about that, and there's very little we can do about it. That's just how strong the wind is here.
Vikramjit Singh to the crease. He's at number 3.
How many times did we say that in the first innings as well, that it felt like someone was just through their shot a bit early? So it does suggest it's just holding a little bit
Yeah, the Scottish batters were telling me that there's no tennis ball bounce out there. There's almost like a stickiness to the wicket. That it feels like even when a ball is there to drive, it doesn't quite come fluently onto the bat. So these early skirmishes with the two new balls in operation, very important period as McMullen rounds out a really good start from him. It's a wicket taking over. 4 have been bowled, 29 for 1. What do you do here if you're Richie Berrington? Do you whip Davidson off? Or?
I was about to ask you the same question. I think maybe the fact that O'Dowd is back in the sheds now, it gives you the ability to keep him on. And I think they are going to do just that, because it was O'Dowd who was really taking Davidson to pieces, so he can go out there knowing that he doesn't have that man at the other end. That last over, it was expensive. 21 runs coming from it.
I think I would have been tempted just to mix things up. Maybe get Davidson back on in the second power play when he's got a little bit of protection with 4 fielders in the deep. Other primary bowlers we'll likely see today: Jack Jarvis, Safian Sharif as the two other seam options. And then Mark Watt's 10 overs are always important, whatever the surface or whatever the conditions or circumstances. But particularly because Dutt and Van der Merwe went so well, you'd imagine his 10 overs would be critical. We might well see quite a lot of Michael Leask too, particularly if Vikramjit Singh spends some time out in the middle. Again, pulled into the deep, but this time there's protection out there, so just a single.
It really is in the pace department where I feel Scotland have been most affected by unavailability of players. They don't have that left arm, lovely movement, insightful wicket-taking abilities of Brad Curry, and I always feel like that is a huge loss to Scotland when he's not available. We were both there to see him get the wicket of Travis Head twice in the 2 games he played against Australia at the Grange last year. I just feel like that takes away some of their strike power.
Yeah, Curry's brother, of course, as well. Scott Curry, he's in blast action too for Hampshire. Was in the wickets last night. Again, he's having a really good time of things.
Brad Wheel
beats the outside edge better from Davidson. Yeah, he has played the 3 ODIs, hasn't he, Scott Curry, but yet to play a T20I. He's been ever present in the Hampshire squad and in the wickets too in recent times. Was he? I think he was on loan at Leicester last year, wasn't he? He's come back down to Hampshire and forced his way into the Vitality Blast team. Has played a bit in the 100 as well for the Manchester Originals. So he's another one that Scotland will keep their eyes on. It's a big surprise for me, not from a bowling perspective, but just the fact Andrew Mead is not here, given he's not in the Somerset T20 team. And what about for the Netherlands? So like Basteleda, who has been called back by his county for Durham. What would you do if you're a Ryan Cook? He's playing for Durham seconds. He's not in the T20 team. He might be tonight, I don't know. I think he's in the squad. Would you not try and work with Ryan Campbell and find a way to get him up here? Would you put him in your 15-player squad even if he can only play 2 of the 4 games or something?
Well, I don't know what conversations may have actually transpired between the two. I certainly imagine that there's been communication. But, there are times when, I think it might be said too, there are times when it's not necessarily that counties say to players, you can't play. But there are other times, I think it becomes a very difficult thing, and players consistently find themselves in just a really difficult position because their main money earner will be their county contracts, and it's a hard thing to ask them to put that in any danger or jeopardy whatsoever. I often feel it's just not appreciated, the difficult circumstances that they find themselves in. But the end of that over, just one run coming from it. And if for no other reason than the fact that Davidson has been able to come back and bowl a really tight over, giving away just one run without Max O'Dowd, that is almost justifiable reason for Richie Berrington keeping it on in and of itself, because he'll be feeling much better about himself after that third over than he did after his second.
You've got two very attacking and dynamic young players out there now for the Netherlands. We said O'Dowd was the prized wicket. There's no Scott Edwards in the team. Wes Baracey has been in fantastic form, and he's basically banged the door down to the selectors to say, well, there isn't a huge amount of depth to the Dutch batting. Domestically, that is, in terms of locally qualified players. The overseas players often have a big impact on the top class. And Baracey, I think, is right up there amongst the Dutch qualified players in terms of domestic leading run scorers, as that one ends up beating everything. Cross can only get some part of his body on it. So Baracey will probably be in next at number 4, although that could be Zach Lyon-Cachet. But it's always difficult, isn't it, coming back to international cricket after quite a time out of it. So I'm just trying to work out where the runs are going to come from for the Netherlands. These two are important. Edged, juggled and put down. Not an easy chance, and could Watt have got there on the rebound? Went to Munsey's left, he got both hands to it, it went in and it went out.
Well, that'll be really frustrating. We said they were going to have to be clinical in the field. Thick edge, flew very quickly, and generally a very safe pair of hands in those slips. He doesn't drop many. Unfortunately, one goes down here.
I think it's only Boris Gorley of the domestic players that has more runs than Wes Baracey's 356 this year. 450s, averaging over, well, the best part of 60 in the top class. But he hasn't played international since last August. So a bit of pressure on him. He was probably just putting the gloves on and getting ready to walk to the crease as that ball was edged. But Levitt has a life. It dropped on 5.
To think